Good evening, good evening, good evening. You're on the Don't Give Up Hour with the Adaptive Sports episodes. This is our third or fourth episode, and the purpose of this broadcast is to bring to light athletes with disabilities because you don't see that a lot in the world today. And my co-host is Sylvester Poe. Take it away, sir.
How everybody doing out there? My name is Sylvester Poe. Um, Along with my co-host, like he said, this is the Adaptive Sports podcast episodes where we talk about adaptive athletes that are doing some amazing things and adaptive athletes that we think should be highlighted out here in the world. And today we have a very special guest, friend of the show, friend of my co-host Travis, Mr. Marty Hartman. How you doing today, Marty?
Good. How about you, Sylvester?
Doing good. I'm
Glad to
doing
be here
good.
tonight.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So real quick, give us a quick bio. You know what I'm saying? Because we just heard your name from the introduction, but name, city, state, disability, and ethnicity.
Quick bio. Live in Clemens, North Carolina, which is a suburb of Winston-Salem. 59 years old. Was born with spina bifida, paralyzed from the waist down. Got my first wheelchair when I was three and a half. My grandfather bought it for me. And that opened up a whole new world of independence for me. And from an early age, I love sports. As I got older, my house was a gathering house for all the kids in the neighborhood. We'd play baseball with plastic balls and bats in the neighborhood because the houses were fairly close together. Play football. My dad put up a basketball goal. When I was in ninth and 10th grade, I encountered a PE teacher that had connections with the wheelchair basketball team playing in the Winston-Salem area at that time. And as a 15-year-old, I got a chance to play with Vietnam vets and grown men with other disabilities. Some of them probably outweighed me by about 2.5 times. Was honestly lucky I didn't get killed because I only know one way to play, and that's all out. That's kind of how I live life in general. Um, but played from mid-teens to late teens. Played basketball. When I was a senior in high school, junior in high school, wheelchair tennis was introduced into the area, and it was new. A gentleman by the name of Brad Parks had developed that out on the West Coast, and it's spread to the East Coast. And the Tennis Pro Tennis Center in Winston had heard about it and wanted to start a program, and I was one of his first guinea pigs for that. And once I got on a tennis court, I found my true love. Um, I also got into wheelchair bowling in about the same time, and basically dabbled with bowling and basketball to keep in shape for tennis, but tennis was my main sport up until my mid to late 20s. Got married in my mid 20s, kind of lost the competitive fire, went back and played basketball some and played a little bit of tennis. And then we adopted a daughter. And for the last 20 plus years, I've more or less lived vicariously through her sports adventures and just watching her grow up. And now that she is graduating college and getting married next year, I'm getting back into wheelchair tennis because it's been restarted in the area again. So,
Well, congratulations first.
thank you.
Um, so with you taking up uh wheelchair tennis, um, what do you what do you see um as the future for wheelchair tennis?
Well, it's constantly evolving because it was its own association for a while. In many years back now, the USTA took it over and has done a remarkable job getting it out more into the community. Um, just to give you an example, we're going to get a chance to have a wheelchair tennis clinic in Winston on Monday, and there's a tennis group in North Carolina called WillServe, and they've got 4 or 5 different satellites in different towns across cities and towns across North Carolina that are going to have players that are going to be at this tennis clinic on Monday. And to be honest with you, I'm kind of excited to see what that's like, because when I was playing back in the day in my 20s, when I was in my prime, I wasn't near the top in the elite level, but I wasn't at the bottom either. I was competitive, and I was pretty good. And I haven't been on the tennis court competitively in probably 25 years, probably pushing 30 even. So it's going to be an interesting adjustment to be out there and see just exactly what's out there and how good these guys really are. I'm kind of going into it expecting to really just maybe even get steamrolled, but it gives me an idea of what I still have left in the tank too. But the one thing about tennis, one thing I learned, the only difference for the people who aren't familiar with it, the only difference for wheelchair tennis is you get 2 bounces instead of 1. And one thing I learned really quickly in high school was just by having the 2 bounces versus 1, your average everyday recreational player that can stand up, that 2 bounce made me equal with them, and I could go out and play with my friends and play tennis when I didn't necessarily have those outlets before.
Yes, and Marty, who do we play wheelchair tennis with? What's the name of all that shit?
It's the Triad Adaptive Sports and
But
Sports Association.
but
And,
but 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 I'm
and
but I'm but I'm saying who?
the parent organization is Solutions for Independence.
Yeah, that's
And
one.
that's another thing too. They are using the adaptive sports to show disabled people ability to be independent in certain ways, while also meeting their needs in other ways for independence, like housing and things like that. Because one thing that I've learned through the last few years and being able to go in different parts of the country and seeing what's there for people with disabilities, North Carolina is majorly behind, especially in like housing for people with disabilities.
Yes, it is.
So, who were some of the people that you looked up to during your time of playing, and then give me some of the obstacles that you may have had to overcome in order to get to the level that you were at.
The big thing for me was when I first started playing, I was playing in a chair that probably weighed 50 to 70 pounds. And my first sports chair probably weighed 25 to 30. And my first sports chair, I played tennis in it, I played basketball in it, and I also used it to bowl, which different sports, the chairs need to be configured differently, for lack of a better word. For your tennis and your basketball, you want the wheels cambered, which means they set out like this, because what that does is it lowers your center of gravity, but it also allows you to turn quicker as well. But the thing is, if you've got a sports chair, those sports chairs are really not conducive for everyday use, because once you camber out the wheels the way you need to, you're not going to get through doorways, not the average doorways. But my big thing was having the equipment to really compete. My first really good sports chair that was made for tennis, I bought as a demo from a guy that ran a shop in Winston. He knew I needed one, and he was getting a new demo of the chair that I liked, and he offered me a chance to buy it at half to a third of what it probably cost, straight out. And I went to his office one day to try it out and just to see what it was like and just really get a feel for it. And I was in his parking lot, and I was flying across his parking lot as fast as I could make that chair go. And that was one of the fastest I had ever been in my life. I mean, because the chair was that light and it pushed that easy. And I'm used to having to really turn the wheels and yank the wheels hard to turn a chair around. So I jerked the wheels just like I normally would in my other chairs. And when I did that, I jerked the seat of the chair completely out from underneath my backside, and I crumpled onto the asphalt in his parking lot. I mean, just in a heap. And he came running over thinking, "Oh no, I've lost the sale. I'm going to get sued. He's on the ground. He's hurt." And when he got over to me, I'm laying there on the ground in a heap, and I'm laughing so hard, going, "I got to have this chair," because I had this idea it was going to make me the world's best tennis player. But after getting it and getting used to it and playing it in tournaments, the one thing I learned, it just gave me more time to figure out how I was going to really mess up my next shot. Was I going to hit it off the fence? Was I going to beat it in the net, or was I going to hit it wide? What was I going to do wrong? So,
yeah. And my biggest obstacle in tennis is I have to us who play us players playing wheelchairs. We don't have the range that a person may have who's standing up because we have that chair be in front of us. So we have to make our shots. We have to adjust the way we hit the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, back to your question, Sylvester. I just realized I really didn't hit your question. You asked about the people I looked up to. From an able-bodied standpoint, the era that I got involved in tennis, and I really loved tennis, the people that were big then was Jimmy Connors, and I'm dating myself with this one, John McEnroe. But, as we got more into the 80s and 90s, the Andre Agassi, Pete Sampras, I always loved the way Pete Sampras played because most of the time you couldn't tell if he was having a bad match or a good match just because of the demeanor he had out there. When I played, you knew how if it was going good or going bad because you could just tell. But even if I was playing bad, most of the time I was still having fun.
Right.
It was. That's one of the most freeing feelings I've ever had in my life.
Go ahead, Travis.
I was gonna say that I played in high school, and I ain't played tennis since I was 19, and I'm 49 now. So my learning curve is out of whack, but I'm doing it, and then because on this Tuesday night when Marty got there, I was playing tennis and I thought I was doing bad, but Marty said, "Travis, you getting the ball like that?" So tennis is it's a good sport. It's you and the ball and the opponent, and I find it freeing. I find it relaxing to play, even in the hot sun.
Yeah, and the one thing I didn't tell you Tuesday night, and I didn't word it right. The big difference Tuesday night from the other night when I was outside before I got in there and was watching you play, you were the only one on that side of the court Tuesday night before I got there. You knew if that ball came back, you were responsible to go for it wherever it was at. And usually when we're out there, because we're sharing a court, it's usually you and one other person, maybe two or three. So you're really worried about the ball being in a small area. The difference in you seeing you move after the ball and really go after the balls that you normally wouldn't have to get, that's where I saw the difference. Because you really can't see that in any of us when we're out there more than one of us on one side of the court.
Okay, so here goes a question for both of you, and this is a question that I had thought of before, right before the show. Um, why do both of y'all? Why do we not see uh someone like Serena Williams or of that caliber uh that plays adaptive tennis out there yet? Like I played basketball, right? And like even now, today we have Emmanuel Hansel. Like why haven't we seen a person in y'all sport at that level yet, in your own perspective?
Part of that's because they don't get the mainstream visibility. And I apologize, I should have looked this up before we got on live. But the number one tennis player, wheelchair tennis player in the world, or he was the number one, he's got his own following and he gets a lot of publicity.
Mm-hmm.
And like the US Open, Wimbledon, French Open, and places like that, they play tournaments, wheelchair tournaments in those venues now. And he plays all of those, Australian Open. And I've seen some really good players back when I was playing frequently, but
Mm-hmm.
the players today,
Yeah.
the upper elite players, are far and away better because of the equipment, because of the training, and a lot said for the dedication. But this guy, I could sit and watch tennis, even able-bodied tennis, and enjoy it. But watching this guy play, I've seen some of his matches on like his YouTube channel, and
Mm-hmm.
it's fascinating. The way he handles a chair like it's a glove.
Mm.
I mean, it's a thing of beauty. And what he can, and his racket preparation and being in position for the ball, that's one of the things Travis will tell you that's a struggle. And for me, being away from it for 30 years, I've still got some of the strokes I've had, but playing once a week right now since the first of the year, the end of last year, I'm still struggling to get my timing back because these elite players are playing 3 and 4 days a week, and probably putting in 3 to 4 hours a time. Because when I was in my 20s, that's what I did in my late teens and 20s. And there was a time when I was a young adult, my mom swore I was going to marry my tennis racket because I spent more time with my tennis racket than I did with anyone or anything else.
Mm.
I'd get off work and get a thermos and off to the tennis courts I'd go. And me and the guys I would play with, we'd stay out there till the lights went off that night. A lot of nights.
Yeah, because the thing is, because the thing I face is that it's that I don't see where ball is going. I see where I want the ball to be. That's my problem. That's my problem.
Yeah, and you and I talked about this Tuesday. You've got some of the same problem I'm having right now. Instead of looking the ball into the racket and see ball, hit ball, we're too busy looking at where we want to put it on the court instead of looking it into the racket. And that messes up more shots than anything.
Yeah.
So you say that they play at things like Wimbledon and the French Open and things like that. Why do y'all believe it's not covered like an actual Wimbledon or French Open? Because if it's at these major events, like the names of the events that you just named are worldwide known events.
Mm-hmm.
But I would probably see Osaka, I would probably see Serena, and players of that caliber on channels like ESPN Fox Sports and things of that nature. I didn't even know that they did wheelchair tennis at these major events. Never even known till you just mentioned it. So why do you think the coverage of those matches are not to the level of the main stage tennis players?
Honestly, for the TV networks that carry it and for the sponsors that they need to provide that, that's not where their money is. But taking it from a different direction, though, as far as getting awareness out for wheelchair sports, over the last, say, 10 years, probably more recent than that, NBC Sports has done more for that than any other network, because NBC has broadcast the Paralympics the last several years. And one thing that, if you do your research on this, and I did not for the last Olympics, but the one before that, and maybe even the one before that, because that was when NBC really started getting into it. If you look at how much coverage the U.S. has and the times that those sports are shown compared to how much it's shown in other countries and the times it's available, it's really kind of disappointing that the U.S. is so far behind so many other places in the world.
Yeah, I think I said that. I was talking to somebody else. I think it was Jamel. He was on a few episodes ago. Where we sat there and talked about it, and I was like, when I was doing my research on like different organizations that had things for disabled sports and adaptive sports. Other countries, and most of the countries that probably have, most of the organizations that probably have reached out to me to give me words of encouragement or whatever, are all overseas. Like I used to play basketball. My main thing right now is gaming, but even in adaptive gaming in the disabled gaming community, you'll see more places outside of the US that does way more as far as putting on events, as far as having these events like across social media and actually being put out there for people to witness, more so than organizations and places here. Like you have certain people like the Ability Gamers organization and Can I Play That and different things like that that are actually here. But the coverage, like we don't have like able-bodied players have things like SmashCon and Evo and CEO. Like they have main esports events that the world basically knows about. But we don't have that yet for our community, right? That's like worldwide known and at that elite level. So my thing would be like, what is it that the U.S. can do to kind of catch up a little bit? Because it seems like just in a disabled community alone, the U.S. is just far behind in every area of disabled entertainment, not just sports, gaming, but almost in every area.
Well, if you notice, it wasn't until the last 10 years or so that you saw people in wheelchairs in TV commercials.
Yeah.
Or saw them in television shows.
Mm-hmm.
And there's more and more of that going on. But going back to just the sports end of it, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, one thing coming up, going back to my story, when I was born in 1963, my parents were told I will live to be 1, I will live to be 3, I might live to be 5.
Mm-hmm.
I was 59 in June, okay? They told my parents that I would have no quality of life, okay? Now, one thing for me, there wasn't a lot of people older than me that I was aware of that were living quality lives with spina bifida when I was younger, okay? Now, let me drop 2 names on you guys and see if either one of you have heard of either one of them. Aaron Wills Fotheringham.
Who?
You've never heard of Aaron Wills Fotheringham?
Nope.
Oh, you need to YouTube him. He is in extreme sports. He has a wheelchair that he takes to, and this is another big wheelchair sport that's growing. There's a guy that builds wheelchairs that is specifically to take to skateboard parks. He does something.
Yeah, I've seen him. I think I follow him.
You may have, and he was on America's Got Talent Extreme. It did that loop thing and wiped out. And
he got back up.
And Simon begged him not to go back and do it again. And I mean, you could tell he was hurt because he was crying because he hit hard.
Matter of fact, I
did it again and nailed it. Okay.
He might have been up here recently because I know we just did the Mountain Dew Extreme Sports tour up here a few weeks ago. He might have been up here.
But you talking about, wheelchair sports not getting the notoriety and the publicity.
Yes.
Only wheelchair athlete to have 2 Hot Wheels made after him. They have got, and actually, hang on a second. I can put my hands on one of them. Well, I thought I could. I thought I had one right here in my drawer, but I've got both of them, and it's got him in his wheelchair. It's him in his wheelchair that he goes to parks in, the 2 different ones.
Now, that's history. That's history.
Yeah.
I'm catching more and more in the extreme sports, more so than like your, what's the word I want, your major league sports.
Yeah.
Like I've seen people skateboard. I've seen people in wheelchairs in skate parks. I've seen actually follow another person. He has CP hemiplegia like me, and he's a BMX bike rider. So like I've seen it in extreme sports, and that's awesome. I don't see it that much in like the major league sports like a baseball, basketball, football, tennis, unless like they're like football has like maybe a few. NFL maybe has like a few that are in the league that are disabled. But like I was telling Travis, and I was telling our class with what's the name of the course that we was in, Travis?
Synergy Works.
Yeah, Synergy Works. Same thing I was telling them is like you don't know that they're there. You don't know that they're there because nobody really covers them like that. Like there's a dude in the NFL right now that plays with one arm. His name is Shamkrim Griffith. Plays for the Seahawks. But you would never know that he existed in the NFL because after he got everybody was tuned in and the ratings probably went through the roof when he was about to get drafted and the backstory, and everybody loves the feel good story about him. But afterwards, you rarely heard anything about him.
But tell me something though. Isn't that what we really want? Because think about it. It's not a big deal that he's in there with an arm. He's basically one of the guys. He's one of the athletes. You see what I'm saying? That's
Right.
proven he's accepted. That's what you want. It's all about perspective and perception.
But any other draft star that would have got drafted in the first round or drafted period probably would have got the same amount of, would have got probably way more coverage throughout the career for them being as good as he is.
But think about it though. Somewhere he's playing in the NFL and he's playing with one arm. And let's talk about the guy that just signed to go D1 college that's playing basketball with the one arm.
Yeah, Emmanuel Hansel, yeah.
Somewhere there's a kid that's got that same birth defect.
Yes.
He, you know, he's not got all the hype, but he sees him doing it and seeing him doing it at the level he's doing it. And he's thinking, you know, if he can do it, I can do it. Because
that's
one
the
thing,
oh, go ahead.
one thing I was getting at with Aaron Wills Fotheringham, and I was going to drop another name on you too, because you talk about not seeing it in the mainstream. This is more of a mainstream sport. Let me drop this name at you. Tatiana McFadden.
I've heard that name.
I've
heard that last name before.
She has won the Boston Marathon, all 4 major marathons. She won them for at least 2 years running. She's a multi-medal winning Paralympian in track and field. She also has spina bifida. She was in an orphanage in Russia with no expectation for quality of life, and a U.S. government worker, her single woman, went there and saw her in the orphanage and adopted her, brought her to the U.S. She now competes for the U.S. Paralympic team and has for years, and she has made more of a difference and set more of an example for people with spina bifida than most people could ever dream. See, that, and those were the things, and this takes it in a different direction too, but that's one of the things I struggled with when I was younger, because I always got this thrown at me being a role model.
Yes.
And I kind of balked at that. But you know, the one thing I learned as I got older, whether it's me, whether it's you, whether I've got a disability, whether I don't, we're all role models. Somebody's looking up to us. They're looking at us.
Yeah.
And, you know, I finally had to accept that. And then one of the things that, you know, one thing made me different is I was one of the first ones in this area of North Carolina that was put in the public schools back in the 70s when they passed the Education Act and the Rehabilitation Act that said you needed to mainstream the people with disabilities. And I went from a school with kids with other disabilities to, you know, where everybody was, they might have been different with their disability, but we were all the same in some way. To being the only kid in a public school in 6th grade that was in an inner city school, which again was a different kind of adjustment to me too, because it was the only school in the area that was accessible. And the one thing that I learned quickly was that the building may have been accessible, but the hearts and the mind of the people I was interacting with weren't, because they had never been exposed to someone with a disability. So I had to be a trailblazer in that respect, exposing people to disability. And, you know, I poured some of it into athletics, and a lot of the athletics that I got into as I got older is what gave me confidence and the
Mm-hmm.
Molded me into who I was because of the competition. But I also, and I look back at it now, even though there was nobody else there that had spina bifida I played with on the basketball team when I was 15 playing with grown men, I was playing with grown men that had been in Vietnam. They had lost limbs. Some of them had been involved in car accidents and
Mm-hmm.
things like that. They had different disabilities from different places, but a lot of them were related to service at the time because of Vietnam. But I was seeing men that even though they had lost something, they were still doing something with their life. A lot of them had wives, they had children. They had a normal life. It just wasn't the normal the way everybody perceived normal. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. You
So,
said, you made a very good point, right? And I think that's probably why I keep asking about the exposure part of it,
mhm.
because you, just like me, and why I got so passionate about doing a show like this, is we didn't have a lot of examples back then.
Exactly.
But we have a lot of them out there now. And my thing is, if 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 it was any other star, if it was any other star quality player or athlete, um, they would be posted almost everywhere, for kids to look up to. Um, and now, as I'm looking around, even with the names that you just dropped, it's like there's a lot of us that has even either been out there or that are out there that I feel like should be highlighted and spotlighted even more so. Now, especially from back then till now, given the way that technology is and the way that we have social media and things like that, and just the upgraded social media in general, um, you would think that our athletes will be highlighted even more, so that kids like you that has, say it again,
Spina bifida.
spinal definite, or somebody like me that has hemiplegia, or somebody that's like Travis or Jamel or any other athlete that we done had on this show, can look up and be like, okay, Marty did it. I see Marty doing it, and he has that, so I can. I see Sylvester has that, so I can. Or I see Travis or any other athlete that we had on this show, was able to do this and do that, so we can. Because one thing that I struggled with as a child when it came to getting into sports and things like that was confidence. And it basically took. I don't think nothing's a coincidence, but I think it really took God to show me things. Like, I remember being in Georgia, and there was a young man that had no arms and no legs that went to national. I remember playing football against a team out in Warner Robins with a player that had no legs that played defense and had a helmet full of decals. I've played with some of the most awesome disabled players to me, in Georgia. And it's just like I wish that we could have had that back then, Because like even when I was in school, I learned about like Oprah, not Oprah Winfrey, but Whoopi Goldberg and Danny Glover. Like they showed us like Albert Einstein, but it took for me to be in high school to even learn about those type of things. Like from the time that I was a child to the time that I got in high school, I didn't even know that these people were disabled.
Mm.
So like that's why I keep asking, like, when do y'all think that there will be a change? Not necessarily for us and us that are actually achieving it, but more so for the children that's coming behind us who needs to know that, yo, we are, you're able to live comfortably in your situation, or you're able to thrive in the sport that you may love uh at an elite level, because there's examples of us out here doing it, being the trailblazers for you all.
Well, I think we've already seen some of that, and the change is happening around us daily. Because one thing I've learned, a lot of your high school sports now, like
Mm-hmm.
let's say especially track and field,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of your high schools actually have enough students in wheelchairs that they have, or with disabilities, that they have a disability division for those in parts of high school sports. And even when I was in high school, and I resisted it because I didn't want to get killed, but being in a wheelchair, I've got, compared to the average person, I've got above normal upper body strength because I have to use my upper body like most other people would use their lower body. I had coaches in high school and, well, from ninth and 10th grade on, try to get me to wrestle because of not having any muscle mass below my waist. I hadn't, I would have been able to compete in a very low weight class.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times my weight division would have been so low that I may have not even had to been wrestled because the other team may not have had anybody in that weight division. But, because I couldn't use my legs and I knew it was going to be hard to pin somebody, and by not being able to use my legs, I knew if I had to wrestle, it'd be easier for somebody else to pin me because I wouldn't have the balance either. But, I even had opportunities when I was in high school if I would have wanted to do that. But a lot of the kids now, where sat on the sidelines most of the time, a lot of the kids that are in public schools now, and even in colleges, a lot of colleges just have wheelchair basketball teams and stuff now that are associated with the college. So, it's changed dramatically. And, you're talking about not knowing, we didn't have the examples. We had the examples when we were younger, but with advancement of technology and with a society that craves information, information about those people is more readily available than it was when we were younger. Because I can drop another name at you that's kind of close to me now, is Dave Kiley. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he's a 9-time gold medal Paralympian in wheelchair basketball. And he was on the West Coast, and he was part of a team back in the, I'm going to say 70s to early 80s, called the Casa Colina Condors. And I mean, these guys played wheelchair basketball at a professional level back then. I mean, it was a thing of beauty to watch them run a basketball drill down the court and run.
So you were able to see them play?
I actually played with a team back then that got nationally ranked and got a chance to play in some tournaments.
Yeah.
Those that some of the better teams in the country were in. And it was unreal. I legitimately, there was a team out of North Florida that played back in that day that we played a tournament against. And I was fast, okay? I admit, I used to be fast, or at least I thought I was fast. Their fastest player wanted to challenge me to race. He let me start at the foul line, and he started at the baseline. He passed me before I got to the other foul line. That's how fast this guy was. And we ended up having to play his team in that tournament.
And they was all like that.
And the sad part is, after he just blew my doors off in that race, I had to guard him for most of 40 minutes. It was not pretty. It wasn't pretty. I mean, he left me in the dust.
Oh man.
Yeah, and I went to an event that Marty had. It was called Free Wheelchair Mission, and it's a great organization. They build wheelchairs for people who will not have wheelchairs. A lot of them are crawling on the floors, crawling on dirt in other countries. And me and Marty we are working to get the word out. And they have done a lot of work, but they need to do a lot more. Because me and Marty, we experienced, because I gotta crawl on the floor without my brakes on. And I know Marty goes through a whole lot worse more than me. Our wheelchairs that we got, they give us freedom. Whereas these people who they get wheelchairs to, they experience freedom for the first time in their lives.
Yeah. I want to tag on to that. The Free Wheelchair Mission, what they've done is they've provided, in 20 years, they provided 1.3 million wheelchairs to people around the world in third world places that don't have access to it. That said, there's still 75 million people around the world in need of wheelchairs. But every time you see about a natural disaster, you see about a war in some of these third world places, like just take Russia and Ukraine for existence. Anytime something like that's going on, a new need for that wheelchair is being created, either in someone that's fighting in the war or civilians been injured as collateral damage. And here's the thing. And, one of the things I think we can't forget, yes, we need to get wheelchair sports more visible and get out there what the athletes can do. But there's more to it than that. You get that provides you a platform. What are you doing with that platform? How are you going to use that to better somebody else and better the situation? And that's really what I'm trying to do with my involvement with Free Wheelchair Mission. One of the things we haven't talked about is the fact that I've self-published a couple of children's books, and it's about it's for those that are familiar with the old comic strip Calvin and Hobbes. It's Calvin and Hobbes' mentality. The wheelchair comes to life in the eyes of a little boy, and the wheelchair tells a story. It's my memories of my first wheelchair, along with going with my dad to get my second wheelchair. That's the first book. And the second book is my memories of my first days of school, going to school with the kids with other disabilities. And one thing that jumps out in that book is my faith, because the wheelchair tells a story, and it comes from the wheelchair's perspective. And one of the lines in the first book, when the maker of the children's wheelchair finishes putting it together, he exclaims, "It is finished." And where have we heard those words before? But claims it is finished, and he says, "I've created a children's wheelchair for some child to use." And the wheelchair's thinking, how exciting is that? I could have been made a plane, a train, a race car, and done so much more. And then in walks a man with a little boy that doesn't have a wheelchair and needs it. And that's where their adventure starts. But in the second book, too, the wheelchair, it's near the end of the day of school, and the wheelchair is looking around at all the other kids in the room and how the teacher's reading to them to finish their day. And she's addressing all of them and treating them all the same, even though they've all got different physical, mental, or emotional challenges. And the wheelchair figures out at the very end of that book that even though all of those kids are made different and they're imperfect in certain ways, their maker made them perfect. He didn't make a mistake.
Okay, calm down. Don't give away too much. Let them go cop the book.
Well, listen, hey, that's the thing. It's out there. It's
Go
Amazon.
cop the books, man. Man, that's amazing.
Let me throw one thing in before I forget it. You know, if there's anybody listening that really wants to know what's going on in wheelchair sports and what's out there is a magazine that's still in print that it actually focuses on that. It's called Sports and Spokes Magazine. That was the magazine when I was in my teens and 20s. That's where I learned a lot about what was going on in wheelchair tennis, who was who in wheelchair basketball, and what was going on in the different teams. And it's
Sports
and Spokes. And I just checked while we were doing this on my phone, and it's still out there. And the most recent issue is out. I don't think it comes out every month, but it comes out every couple of months, and you can access it online.
I have a few of those.
And last year, Marty did they have certain events to raise awareness for free water mission. And last year, Marty pushed how many miles did you push, Marty?
Well, actually, it was back in May. For the month of May, I set a goal to do 26.2 miles throughout the month of May, and I charted each one of my pushes on my fundraising page for it. And the funny thing is, in the chair that I've got now, and I was doing it most of it at the Y here in Winston. It's got about a tenth of a mile indoor track that's flat and it's great pushing. But God has a sense of humor. About 9 miles into doing this, my chair that I use every day broke. So I had to go back to a chair that I hadn't sat in 5 years, and I finished the rest of the month out in my pushes in that chair because it took me that long to get my everyday chair repaired. And I finished the month at about 27 miles. 26 miles. Yeah, 27, just a little over 27 miles. So,
And if you want to know, you can go to freewatermissions.com, right, Marty?
.org.
.org, okay. Yeah. If you want to know more about it, go to freewatermissions.org.
There is links to it on my Facebook page and on my book Facebook page and on my photography page. That's another passion I've gotten into recently.
Travis, man, let's make sure that we have that type of information for them, for those that may not be able to write it down or look it up right away at the bottom of the screen too, so they can catch that with Marty's information and everything also, so they can, if they want to follow you, they can add you as a friend. I don't know if you accept friend requests on Facebook like that, because I know sometimes it gets sketchy.
Well, if there's anybody watching this and hears this that has a question, feel free to contact me. My website is on the flyer for the podcast tonight, and there's a way to email me from there.
Okay. That's the link to your books on there too.
I haven't figured out how to tie them because the website right now is basically just for the photography, and there's got a couple places for me to do blogs that I've really fallen behind on. Because honestly, as much as photography has been my recent passion, my biggest passion and probably my best gift is writing. But I go through these stretches where even though I feel like I've got something to say, the writing feels a little bit more like a chore. And right now the photography is just fun because everywhere I turn, there's something that's just begging for me to take its picture. And I have discovered the joy of editing a picture once you take it. So, because you can take a decent picture and you can turn it anything you want it to look like. So
That's great. That's great.
Yeah, and just and want to say, and all of our goals and mission is to bring awareness that we are people too.
Yes, that's the main focus.
That's the main focus of this
Show.
of this podcast, or whatever you want to call it, a show, or whatever you want to call it. And we want to have everyone to be treated as people. I don't care if you're from Ukraine, I don't care if you're from Russia. We want everybody to have the means and the equipment to prosper.
Yes. I ask this question every episode. Where, how do you see, or do you see, adaptive sports ever having a professional ranking system like an I don't like a PGA or NFL or NBA, MLB maybe, where a lot of our athletes can start getting paid just to be professional athletes as regular able-bodied athletes.
I hate to tell you this, your upper echelon of wheelchair basketball right now, your upper echelon of wheelchair tennis, your upper echelon of the track and field are already being paid and getting sponsorship. That's been around for a while. You just don't hear
it. Why do you think that is? Like, why don't we hear about these things?
Again, it comes back to advertiser dollars. You can't get it on TV because it's not going to be what's going to sell the products. They're not going to get the following, the viewership on TV to do it. And that's what drives it. But yet there's still enough interest and involvement in it that there is money in it for the very top. And, there's probably some other sports that I'm not aware of because I don't know if you guys had a chance to watch it, but I was absolutely fascinated with the quad rugby in the recent Paralympics.
Yeah. I mean, the most recent thing that I seen and Travis showed me when he did it was the water skiing. I didn't know that you can do that.
Oh yeah.
It looked fun too. It looked fun. Well, I think that's the most recent thing that I've discovered. Other than that, like I've seen hockey. I see like sled hockey before. I thought about that too, actually. I've seen flag football. Like I've seen different sports, but I think the most recent thing that I discovered was the water skiing. But quad rugby sounds fun.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. It's fun. It's fun. It's amazing. because I played in Atlanta and I was.
Yeah. You was a beast. You was a beast. You was a beast with the rugby. Let me find out. You were a two level athlete out here, Travis.
I'm intense, man. I'm intense. Yeah.
Let me find out you was Barry Sanders of the quad rugby.
Yeah. 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 Because in tennis, I be trying to mess culture. I be trying to do. I be trying, man.
Yeah. But this was a great episode. I appreciate both of y'all.
This has been fun, guys.
We made it past the hour mark yet again.
All
I
right.
wish we had the applause sound for that, because that would be the sound that is needed right now. Very informative. I got that from a friend of mine a few episodes ago. Last episode? Last episode ago. And definitely with the guests that we have on here, I appreciate every single one of y'all. Everybody that comes on, that gives this information. I've learned a lot. I'm sure the audience have learned a lot. I wish you nothing but the best of luck with your photography. If y'all need pictures, hit Marty up. Let's get this man some work. I feel like he got a stand-up comedy gig in him somewhere. I promise y'all.
No, you got it wrong, Sylvester. I'm on wheels. It's called sit down comedy when I do it. And believe it or not, I've been told more than once I need to do it because, unfortunately, as you guys saw with the with this podcast, if it comes in the head, it comes out usually unedited and unfiltered. So,
go cop his books. Hit him up. Find out a way to get it from him. Share his blogs. Follow him on Facebook. All his social medias. Travis, same thing. He got his books and his show that he does on here on the Don't Give Up Hour. Follow the Encouragement Zone on Facebook. And follow me. Why not? And follow the podcast on Instagram at Adaptive Sports Pod on Instagram.
Yeah, and let me say this: it's all about informing ourselves. Yes, it's all about informing ourselves. Going out and find. Just do a search for Adaptive Sports, and one set, and you'll find out things that we're doing out here.
I know we're passing out, but I got one more thing I really wanted to throw in that I've managed to over.
Go ahead.
One thing I really wanted to throw out, there might be somebody out there listening to this or gets to hear this is thinking, well, I can't do this or I can't do that at an elite level. It doesn't matter if you can do it at an elite level. What matters is what's inside and the heart to do it. It's not about the size of the dog in the fight. It's about the size of the fight in the dog.
Say that again. Say it again for the people in the back. Say that again for the people in the back.
It's not about the size of the dog in the fight. It's about the size of the fight in the dog.
That's right.
For us that are living with disabilities, it's more important than it is for the average person for us to stay active. It's important for us for our mental health. It's important enough. It's important for our physical well-being because we have to watch our weight, and it's not important whether you're going to go out there and you're going to say you want to go out and do pushing, like say Tatiana McFadden. You're not going out there to break a 4-minute mile. It doesn't matter if you can push a mile. It matters getting out there and getting the exercise. It doesn't matter if you go out there and play 3-set tennis matches. Get the racket, get the ball, find out if you like it. Get a basketball and take it and throw it at the goal. It doesn't matter if it goes in. Find out what you like to do and pursue it. Pursue it because you love it. You might be surprised what you find.
I have a question.
Uh-oh.
And this has always been my thing with wheelchair sports, right? And now that I have two, I consider you all friends. You both friends. Now that I have two wheelchair athletes in front of me, how would somebody, let's say there might be some people out there that's listening that might have cerebral palsy, hemiplegia like myself, where you don't necessarily have usage of both arms to roll a wheelchair. Do y'all allow like electric wheelchairs and or things of that sort?
There are people that play wheelchair tennis in electric wheelchairs. There are quads that play in electric wheelchairs that actually play in the electric wheelchair. All they can do is steer it with the one hand, and they have the tennis racket actually taped to their other hand. I have seen them do this. And you're talking about don't have use of both arms, maybe. There's a young man that played for the Charlotte wheelchair basketball team and went on to college, and I think he may be playing on a college team now. He had spina bifida, but it affected him more like someone that has a stroke, and he is paralyzed in one arm.
Yeah.
But he still played wheelchair basketball and played on a very good team in Charlotte. Like I say, I know he's gone off to college and I think he's playing in college.
So how did he steer? Like he was able to play with an electric wheelchair?
No, he played in a manual chair, pushed it with one arm, would reach across his body and grab the other wheel. And he would also, like if he wanted to turn, he would use the inside of his paralyzed arm because he had enough use of the arm that he could like put it on wheel to turn it and stuff like that. Yeah. It's all about the determination. It's back to the size of the dog thing.
Yeah, that's that. It's
all about how bad do you want it.
I was just telling somebody that the other day. How bad do you want it?
You know, that's one of the things I've been dealing with getting back playing wheelchair tennis. Because like I say, that is my sport and that is my love. But one thing I have learned very quickly, it hurts a whole lot quicker and a whole lot longer trying to get back in shape at this age than it did when I was playing 30 years ago.
I'm 36 and I'm experiencing that. But yes.
Oh, I got you by almost 2.5 decades. Just wait. You ain't seen nothing yet.
Like, that's why I'm trying to get it now.
Hey, back in the day, in the late 80s, early 90s, Nike had a theme on their shirts. It was called "The Older I Get, the Better I Was." That shirt came out when I was in my 20s, and I thought it was hilarious. That shirt's not funny now because I understand exactly what they mean now. So.
The better I was, huh?
Yep, and that's it.
Okay.
Travis, is Travis there?
He disappeared on us.
Oh, he might got to come back in.
That's not good.
No, it's good. It's good. We're just gonna keep it rolling. Until he gets back to close us out. But any final words or a word of encouragement to the younger generation? Like, well, I know you just gave the analogy of it ain't the size of the dog, but the the size of the fight inside the dog. But if
Well,
you had to talk to, say, a 5-year-old.
well, let's and it's good because you're leading me right where I was going with that. The first book that I wrote about the little boy that gets his first wheelchair, and my memory's getting mine when I was 3.5, and getting my second one probably when I was late elementary school, somewhere along in there.
Mm-hmm.
I sign every one of those books with, I hope you enjoy the book. Remember to always dream big and let God take care of the rest. And I sign it with the Bible verse, Luke 1:37, for nothing is impossible with God. One thing that I have learned in the lesson I've been taught in this last year, as much as I've signed literally hundreds of books, if not thousands, with that saying, dream big and let God handle the rest, the one part of that equation I missed, it's not enough to dream big. You need to dream long too. Because, I try to squeeze the most out of every day because none of us know how much we have. I try to get everything I can out of it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, my parents told I lived to be 1, I'd live to be 3, I'd live to be 5. Looking back now, being 59, how much more would I have squeezed out of some of it if I'd have been dreaming long instead of just dreaming big?
Hold on. That's Travis. Okay. He'll be back in just a minute. He said we have a technical difference. So I'll just put it that way.
Okay.
But and that's interesting that you said that. I never even thought of that. Don't just dream big, dream long.
Yeah, it's not enough to just dream big. You need to dream long. Because most of our dreams aren't going to happen overnight. They're going to require some investment and some work from us.
Yeah. The children's book, how can they get a hold of that? Because I'm very interested in that. That's why I keep bringing it up.
The first book, both books are available in paperback on Amazon, and they're right around $10 a piece. Okay.
And what are the names of them?
The first one is The Adventures of Wally the Wheelchair, A New Beginning.
Adventures of Wally.
Wally, W-A-L-L-Y, the wheelchair.
The wheelchair. Okay.
A New Beginning. And the second one is The Adventures of Wally the Wheelchair, Wally Goes to School.
Okay. I'll make sure that they Travis make sure that's at least in the description of the video too. So
one thing I did forget to mention, the first one is also out in an ebook for the Kindle.
Okay.
I never got the second one formatted correctly for it to work, but the first one is. And it made a pretty interesting ebook. It looked good on the Kindle. Yeah. And it's cheaper to get it that way, actually.
Okay, so there y'all have it. If you're on a budget, the best way to handle that is to get it on the Kindle.
Exactly.
We're an hour and 15 minutes in. I don't know if Travis is going to be able to come back. But if you have to leave, I totally understand.
I can hang out as long as he gets back until he lets us know something different.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that's interesting because I wouldn't mind I wouldn't mind promoting something like that for the kids especially. Because like I said, we didn't have that. Like I saw okay. I saw I saw a poster yesterday at work, walking across the Gap store inside the mall.
Mm-hmm.
They had a little boy with prosthetic legs. And I was like, wow, like kind of like what you're saying, like now, like we're seeing it more and more.
Uh-huh.
Um, as far as uh people and children with disabilities being used um in media and entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I looked at the little boy. Little boy on the post looked like he could have been every bit of maybe 7,
Mm-hmm.
maybe younger than that. But I was like, imagine what that looks like to another young man that might also be or might also have prosthetics.
Yeah.
And like I said, that's kind of like why I created this show, right? Was because we do have more access now.
Mm-hmm.
So now um and being totally real with what we do here on this show and Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, it's almost like we get to create our own exposure,
Mm-hmm.
but that and that's a good thing. That's a blessing within itself.
Yes.
At the same time, I would like to see more advertisement dollars, like you said, put into a lot more of these events to get them on mainstream media.
Yeah.
Because like I said, like if I would have known that, like a lot of the information that you dropped today, um,
Mm-hmm.
if I was able to see that, you know, that might put a young Sylvester more at ease,
Mm-hmm.
you know? That might put a young Sylvester with more hope.
Yeah.
Or
And
that might put friends and family that might have been around Sylvester to have a little bit more faith in Sylvester when it came to participating in sports.
yeah.
Again, especially with me because I was competing against able bodies.
Yeah.
Um, but if we were able to see somebody like Emmanuel Hansel, if we were able to see somebody like a Shamkram Griffin,
Mm-hmm.
you know, to see that it's actually physically possible to to make it as a professional, then there would be no reason for me to continuously think that my ceiling will only be Paralympics, Special Olympics, and I would probably have to sit down in a wheelchair, play wheelchair basketball, even though I've played against elite, able-bodied talent.
Yeah.
You know, um, so that's kind of the thing now. It's like it ain't even about. I was telling Jamel, because he was asking me like about getting the team back together and things like that, and I was telling him, I was like, right now it ain't even about me.
Mhm.
Like I have a bigger obligation to the future. Not saying that I'll never get it together because we talked about that, but I was like, I have a bigger obligation to the younger generation right now, to let them see um that there are superstars out there that could be in their same condition that are doing awesome things.
Yeah.
Like before we hopped on the show, before we started the show, y'all was telling me about the clinic, and I was like, man, it would be good if I could watch that. You know? Or it'd be good if somebody was to live stream that. So it could be watched.
Yeah.
And it's little things like that that I think about. Not so much I'm trying to tell people like, yo, pay attention, pay attention, pay attention, but just think about what it could do for that child who might be in a wheelchair, or that person that's amputated at the arm, when they look at Emmanuel Hansel and they're like, Emmanuel Hansel's got all these highlight tapes out here and he's dunking on people with one arm.
Mm-hmm.
and making shots from the 3-point like he's Kevin Durant with one arm.
Uh-huh.
And you see things like that as a child, or if you're a parent, you're able to show your child that type of example. To boost the confidence. Like I said it in one of his Instagram comments. I was like, bro, if you ever go to the league, your jersey sales are probably going to be through the roof.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Because there's so many children with disabilities that's probably looking up to him right now.
Exactly.
But he's not the only one out there.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I'm pretty sure there's probably somewhere some young man. Matter of fact, when I was in Georgia, Zach Hoskins, heard of him?
Yes.
Played in Georgia, went to Florida, walk on.
Mm-hmm.
And people get to see people like Zach, or people get to see people like Emmanuel, and like kind of give their children that example or that inspiration,
that it's possible.
Mm-hmm.
I knew plenty of people that I played with, that I grew up with, that had disabilities. That was like, yo, like I I I didn't imagine that I'll be able to do this,
Uh-huh.
let alone make it to college. You talk about going to play college ball? Like, bro, you lucky to get picked up at the recreation center.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm like, no, I'm telling y'all, like, it's possible.
Yeah.
But back then, there was nobody around to look toward to say that it's possible.
Yeah.
Because at that point, it had never been done.
Yeah.
So, like now, now that it's out there, and they can kind of see that not only can we play against our own, but we can also play alongside and against y'all too.
Yeah.
I just feel like now it's time to really have that conversation. I say it all the time, with the job and the work that Emmanuel puts in, he's gonna make it tough in a few years when that draft come around, and people looking and they're like, well, what's the reason why he's not drafted?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like what is your reason? What's that?
I said I understand that, and that you're right, because they're gonna have to make some hard choices there.
Yeah, no, they're gonna have to. They're gonna have to start allowing us into some of their clubs, man. Some of their boy clubs. Like, I ain't gonna say the name of the organization, but I remember I was talking to one, and they straight up told me, why are y'all trying to integrate with able bodies when we've given y'all own places to play?
Yeah.
And if y'all want to go play over there. It's just like I said, it's some certain people that I know or that I've seen makes that comment kind of hard to justify, because it depends on what sports you're talking about. Yeah. But we've had Major League Baseball players. We have Major League Football players. If Emmanuel stays on the route that he's going on, 9 times out of 10, you're gonna have to have the conversation about letting him play in the NBA.
Yeah, you're right. Oh,
thank you so much, guys. Technical difficulty, that's all I can say.
Yeah, yep. We notified the people. They understand. I'm pretty sure they're still rocking with us.
Yeah.
We was just having a nice, decent conversation about these pro leagues allowing some of our players in. You know? So I was just giving examples like that.
Yeah.
Just had a conversation about the future disabled children and disabled athletes, and just trying to let them see people like you, Marty, like a Sam, like a Jamel,
like a Jason.
So so they can see that there's examples out here of people like them doing it. And I just feel like that my main passion with this show is to increase the confidence of people that may be disabled, whether mentally, learning, physically, that may be thinking about not just even sports, but going for anything in life that you want to go for. That is possible. Because we have examples. And if ain't nobody else gonna show you or tell you about these examples, Sylvester will be here. Anytime it's time to record a show with my brother Travis, to put it in front of you to show you there's an example out there.
And don't give up, y'all. Don't give up.
I thank you, Marty, once again. Thank you for being here with us. It was a great experience.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Better. I thank you for being the example. I'm glad that you're getting back into tennis. You know,
Me too. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah.
I get told a lot of times that my expectations sometimes are too high with people. But for you and Travis, I expect some type of Wimbledon French Open appearance sometime.
Listen, the only thing you're going to see me is in a senior circuit somewhere, okay? Hey, I did add playing in a tennis tournament past the age of 60 and doing the 5K past the age of 60 to my bucket list. So hey, I got.
Hey, I didn't say you had to play in it. You can roll around the court.
Dude, if I'm going to be on the court, I'm going to be in the game. Okay.
That's right. That's right.
I know that's right.
Life is not a spectator sport. Okay.
Hey.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, I appreciate y'all, man. This was a great episode.
Thanks for having me, guys. This is good fun.
Might be our longest episode, Travis.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm just telling you, Travis, when it gets time for you, if you want to do some editing on this thing, be my guest. Oh.
Hey, it's been a pleasure to have you on this podcast. And I see you Monday. And I see you Monday
bright and early.
And I see you Monday. And I hope my backhand get better by that time.
If I have one Monday, I'm gonna need it.
All right, you guys. Thank y'all for
tuning later.
Okay, all right.
Don't give up.
Don't give up. Don't give up on your dreams, hopes, and visions. Keep striving. Keep pushing. And please, we need you. We need you.